Hey guys, Braided Zero here, bringing you a video today on my review of Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I'm a little bit delayed on doing this because I don't believe in making review videos on games that you haven't very thoroughly played, so that way you can give it a real good review, something that covers all of the different boundaries. I wanted to do this and cover a couple different topics. I'm going to talk briefly about kind of the campaign, how loot progression is, the open world aspects of it, stealth, enemies, bugs, weapons and armors multiplayer, the raid, and then I'm going to conclude on my thoughts of the microtransactions. Just to give you a little TLDR, I do recommend this game for those who do enjoy the RPG looter aspects of looter shooters and first-person shooters. If you are going into this game expecting a Wildlands 2, I will say that you most likely will be disappointed. I'm not really going to give it like a quote-unquote score, like a 9 out of 10 or something like that. This is just me kind of talking about the different aspects of the game, what I did like, what I didn't like, and maybe a few things that I may recommend that somebody change, or you know, maybe if they do some patches on something, maybe take out a couple of the bugs, it might be able to improve things. But for the most part, these are going to be fundamental concepts that are not going to be changed, and they are pretty game changing for a lot of people that are making a lot of people not really want to play this game. But let's go ahead and jump in. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, comment below with your own personal likes and dislikes, and subscribe to the channel. The first thing I'll talk about is the campaign. I would say that all in all, I do like the layout of the mission screen. It kind of reminds me of like a little murder mystery investigation kind of board where you're connecting all the dots. And then the lower portion kind of has a Shadows of Mordor kind of feel, where as you discover bosses and move through, then you get to move to the people that those guys are connected to. I will say that the missions overall are a little bit lackluster. I really did not care too much for the campaign at certain points, even though I read through everything, followed and watched all of the different cutscenes. It was a little bit confusing on why certain people were doing certain things. They give you a lot of information in the beginning, which is kind of standard with stories, and try to give you bits and pieces to explain those actions later on. But maybe I wasn't too involved with it, which is why once they gave me the pieces, it didn't make sense. But all in all, the campaign just seems a little bit unengaging. It didn't draw me into the characters. I wasn't finding myself attached to the characters in any way, and it really just didn't pull me in like a lot of other games out there. So I will say that the campaign is a little bit of a negative aspect to it. The missions, the people weren't really, like, the voice acting wasn't that great, and it didn't draw me in. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a negative aspect of the game, but it by all means is definitely not a positive. I wouldn't tell you to buy this game because the campaign is amazing. The next part I'd like to talk about is the loot progression. This is an RPG game, which means that the looting aspect is very important. They come right out the gates and say that if you headshot somebody, regardless of their gear score, your gear score, you will kill them in one headshot. For most enemies, some armored may require 2. Drones are on a completely different level and completely dependent upon that gear score. But purely human enemies, if you headshot them, they're gonna die. So even if you are a very low gear score and you move into a camp that is mostly humans, it doesn't matter their gear score or yours, you can clear it with little issue as long as you remain stealth. If you open up Hell's Gates and people start firing at you, then you will very quickly notice that disparity between the gear scores, especially if they are wolves or if they are drones. But if you just kind of stay stealth and move through, then for the most part, the entire world is just open and available to you. I will say that in regards to loot progression, I like that some of the areas are locked away by gear score, but I don't like the fact that you have to go to certain areas to receive certain gear. There is a clear progression of areas that you should move through as you go across the map to receive higher gear. If you are in an area that is all 100, you won't really receive that great of gear. It may be +1 or possibly even the same gear, as you'll be getting the same loot as what your current gear score is, but you cannot receive that higher gear until you go to a higher area. I do not like that. I wish that I could just go to anywhere on the map, kill some guys, and receive a little bit better loot. Now, maybe keeping higher, like maybe jumping 2 to 3 points, may be restricted to an area that's much higher than yours, but you can at least give maybe a couple points boost when you're just going around and making up some of the side missions that you hadn't done yet. Another kind of side point to that would be maybe just restrict the types of weapons or certain weapons that you can receive based on locations. Like maybe if you're killing enemies in Camp Kodiak, then you have a higher chance of a certain gun dropping in there. I know that blueprints are hidden in very specific areas, but I would like it if certain loot dropped in certain areas as well. As far as I understand, that's not been confirmed, so I would like to kind of see that. Bouncing off of that into the next one is the open world aspect. I love the fact that you can travel wherever you want in this world, regardless of your gear score. There is a good even spread where you don't just see one entire region locked down with just all really high gear score stuff. The lower southwest kind of area of the map is an area that I didn't really explore until I was much higher, because I could kind of tell that most of the behemoth camps were a little bit higher. But for the most part, they do a really good way of scattering out these behemoth camps and other higher ranked gear score camps throughout the entire map, that it's not really bottlenecking you into one region of the map until you get higher. You can kind of just explore the whole thing. I'd recommend just getting different bivouacs across the entire island. That way you can fast travel to anywhere you need to go, and it's really fun. I like the fact that they do that. The next area is the stealth, and right out the gate, I am going to say that, like a lot of other people that I've kind of read reviews on and seen from other people on Reddit and anywhere on YouTube, is that stealth is very lacking. There are certain times in this game where I am loving the stealth. I'm able to creep through an entire camp. I'm very careful, clearing out bodies, maybe moving them into bushes so that other people don't see them. It's so much fun. But then there's other aspects that are just really disappointing me. Maybe where I'm maxed out on stealth, I'm in the Panther group, everything, I should be able to easily stealth by somebody or even a behemoth, and these guys are hearing you instantly. It's really aggravating. It kind of breaks that little desire for me to even try to do stealth, where most of the time I may try to stealth my way into a camp and do the best I can to kill, but if I get noticed, I don't really care too much. I'm just going to hunker down and kill anybody who mindlessly runs at me and snipe those guys that are farther away. The stealth is not as emphasized as I would really like, and as the campaign trailers and the trailers before the release really made you believe. You were believed to have been a hunted guy, and even my review of the beta before the release, I even said that I didn't feel like it felt that way, and that still stands true. It doesn't really feel like you're hunted. The whole island's not on kind of alert of where you're going to be. It's just kind of like we're standing in this area. Oh, we noticed somebody. Let's go ahead and kill him. Okay, he's no longer in our area. Then whatever. It's gone on. Its stealth is not as big as I would really like to see. Going on to the next one would be the enemies. I did like the variation of the enemies in the game. There's a lot of different kind of grunts, where you've got some that are running guns, shotguns. They're going to run right up on you the moment they find you. Then there's also the other gunners that are going to stay a little bit back. Then you've got also the ranged snipers and the rocket launchers. They did a good job of kind of bringing in that variation. And then on top of that, you also have the wolves and the drones, various different kind of drones, even some like that are cleaning robots that just mindlessly go and sweep around the city or carry different boxes around. They do a great job of bringing a lot of various different things to the game that make it to where you have to go into engagement very differently based on what is there. If you scout an encampment and you find a lot of drones, then you're going to take that completely different than you would a camp that is just a bunch of grunts, or even a camp that is just a bunch of wolves. So it brings a lot of diversity. I did really like that, and I like the way that the enemies play along with your character and engage with your character. They are still a little bit dumb, but that's just kind of the way that I think AI kind of goes. They do seem a little bit dumber than I would expect of AI, but maybe I'm expecting too much. Going on, the next section I wanted to kind of touch on very, very briefly was the bugs. A lot of people have been having issues with bugs, and I've seen a lot of people talking around online that they've been having some really bad bugs. But for the most part, even with about 40 hours or so of gameplay, I haven't really run into that many bugs. The only bugs that I've run into on my own single player time has been bugs where I may glitch into certain items, or I try to get into an area where I can't. And I also tried to investigate an item that just, no matter how I move, it just doesn't seem to let me investigate. The other bugs I encountered were when I went into a multiplayer. I ran into a bug where my scope was very fuzzy and I couldn't really see it too well. It just was something that was very, very minor and didn't break the game. And all the bugs that I encountered didn't really break the game. It just provided a little bit of a nuisance. Even if I was stuck in an item like a chair or a table, I could go completely prone on the ground, crawl a little bit away, and then jump back up, and I was out of it. So most of the bugs that I've encountered have not been game breaking, and it's not something that would change my desire to play or buy the game. The next thing I'd say is on weapons and armor. I really do enjoy the different guns and armor. Almost every gun plays a different way, has a different level of handling, and you can tell that there was a little bit of love and care that went into the creation of these guns. I love the way you can modify the guns both in the gunsmith, and you can change out things on the fly as you're zoomed in. It's really good with bringing that immersion into the gameplay, and it's not overly complicated even when you're in the gunsmith trying to modify a weapon. I also like the different rarities and how the quality of that gun plays into the perks that are given onto that gun, and how even though a gun may be the exact same, they're both AK-47s, the quality of that gun changes completely the kind of perks that you have, and you can upgrade that gun all the way up to a Mark III. And although it doesn't seem like it's going to change so much, it really does change the way that that gun feels. It gives you better handling, it gives you better range, all kinds of various different things that are really great on bringing in that immersion in the weapons and armor. Not too much to say about the armor. I do like the perks on the armor, and again, I like the quality aspect of it, but it's about the same as the weapons. Now, when it comes to the multiplayer aspect, which is going to be the last kind of area that I'm going to talk about before we jump into the microtransactions, I really enjoyed the PvP. It is very survivalist kind of mentality. I love the fact that, you know, like, you're shot once and you're pretty much instantly dead. You have to rely on your teammates to be able to bring you up. It's 4v4, so it's very tight-knit, and you're working very closely with the other three people, of course, unless you're going in with randoms and nobody feels like talking and running all over the map. But as long as you're strategizing, it's very fun. I wouldn't put it as something that I'm going to crave to get home and play the PvP aspect of it. PvP has never been a huge thing for me, although I can be very competitive. I tend to go more towards the PvE aspects, and I really do enjoy squadding up with friends. It really changes the dynamics of the game from a single player to a multiplayer aspect. You can actually start to work together with the other friends. You can each have your different roles. If one person overextends, then you've got the medic who can always heal them. You've got different ranges that you can have somebody sniping and somebody more up close. It's really great working together. And if you're working into a camp that is really overpopulated, it's great to be able to work together with your team to do that. Also, the health of your enemies does scale with the number of people that are there. So whereas a couple body shots on a person, even if you miss that headshot, you can typically tag them down with a couple body shots before they alarm anybody. In multiplayer, it's not going to be as easy, because you're going to need a lot more body shots to take them down. So headshots is even more important in multiplayer if you plan on keeping that stealth, or just make sure you're on point with gear score. Going along with that, I'll just talk very, very briefly about the raid. We don't know much about it aside from where it's taking place, and that it's going to be a very heavily drone-centered raid, 4-man group, and that it's going to be 150 in order to get in. You should already have the mission if you've been playing. It unlocks immediately, but once you become 150, it actually turns it over to say that you can now enter the raid, even though it's been really confusing for a lot of people because the raid's not unlocked yet. This has been a very sensitive point for me because Ubisoft has been very quiet about the raid. They spoke about it. They said it was going to be released shortly after the game came out, and now it's been complete radio silence that nobody said anything. I know we're only about a week after release, but by now I would have expected at least some kind of word of, you know, hey guys, we know y'all been playing hard. We know you've been playing a lot. Here's when you can expect to enter into the next part of the content release. So I'm not too happy about their silence, but at this point I'm still having fun playing. I just fear that if they don't come out with something soon, people are going to be leaving this game and going to play other games. Whereas if they kind of release this content soon, we could keep people drawn in. The last section that I'll very briefly talk on as well is microtransactions. Before release, we had a lot of microtransactions, which really scared a lot of people. But since then, they have removed the aspects that are the boosts, which I do agree that was really dumb to release on giving people experience boosts and stuff like that, especially when experience is, your level is almost, it means nothing to me really. The only thing that you get from the level, as far as I could tell, was just your new perk point, which you can get so many perk points across the map that it almost didn't mean anything to level up faster. But going beyond that point and to what is remaining, I think that almost all of the prices are overpriced. The cosmetics that you get, I think an entire outfit will cost you $10, which seems just crazy. And then all the other blueprints would cost you around $3. I think some of the vehicles are around in that range as well, if not even a little bit higher. It may cost you $5 to unlock a vehicle. You can buy credits, which are also very, very overpriced. All in all, I would say that just stay away from the store because pretty much everything you get in it is going to be overpriced, and it would only require you a very small amount of time invested in the game in order to just get the items on your own. But the one positive thing I would say about this is the microtransactions are not shoved down your throat. You really won't even notice them if you don't click on the shop tab. It's not something that they're popping up in front of your face all the time. There's not notifications about it, and I really do enjoy the fact that they're not trying to just shove it into your face at any given moment, and it makes me at least feel a little bit better. They did say that they probably will bring the boosts back, but that's something that may come in the, I'm sure in the next season, the next part of the DLC, so probably in February they may bring them back. And the design, they said, was to release it so that people can catch up, but it felt very sketchy, the fact that that was included in the beta, almost like a, we did it just because, and then, oh no, you caught us and then you slap us on the wrist. Okay, we'll take it away because you clearly didn't like it. I don't know. It felt a little bit underhanded and unethical, but that's for a different story. Again, all in all, that's all I have. I would say that I do recommend the game. I tend to be a little bit more lenient when it comes to video games. I'm not as harsh in my critics about games because as long as I can find some way of having fun in a game, I will do that and I'll enjoy it. And I'm not so hypercritical about things. I tend to overlook some of these smaller negative aspects of a game as long as there's overwhelmingly positive things that I can find. And in this game, I did enjoy it. Again, I'm a little bit biased because I really enjoy first-person shooters, especially looter shooters. And this game really is great when it comes down to that looting aspect. And I love the military aspect of it as well. I would recommend it, but it does come with some caveats, such as if you're expecting Wildlands, just turn away. I don't think you're going to be that engaged on it. I wish that Ubisoft included some kind of a way that we could turn off the looter shooter aspect. I think if they did that, they would have drawn in a lot more people who were okay with just running through it like it was a normal mission and not being restricted based on a gear score. I've heard a lot of negative things from people who are used to the Ghost Recon franchise not being about gear score, and now They're really pissed that they have to worry about some passive gear score that's always going to take a part in their gameplay. And I think that Ubisoft could have done something to be able to circumvent that. Again, maybe not, maybe that wasn't in the cards for them, but I think they could have done that. So all in all, I'd say go ahead and get it if you like those looter shooter kind of games, especially if you like more of the military style kind of games. And you know, just let me know down below if you really like it. Maybe you're not really enjoying it as much. We've had a lot of comments on the channel of people saying that they're not really enjoying that looter shooter aspect of it, and that's by all means great. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content. Thanks.